Welcome to City Chapters Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby J. Today on this chapter, we got my friend Juan Jaramillo.
Nice.
Yeah. We were practicing that name before just to make sure I got it right, you know. Juan is the owner of Cornerstone Physical Therapy. It's located up on Garland, like right next to the Revolver up there. Me and Juan know each other originally through playing soccer together. And I've been running with them ever since they let me sub on their team one time. I loved playing with them. And now we got a solid squad.
Yeah,
and
man. Snagged you up.
Yeah, we be running it up for sure. So that's how I know Juan. Now, I think Juan's an amazing individual. We always have great conversations. He's really tapped in with just a lot of different thought processes that I go through. And so I think it was just natural for us to have him on. And I would just want to learn more about him and his backstory. So what's up, Juan? How you?
Hey, man, it's honored to be here, man. Thank you. I'm honored for the invite.
Yeah,
man. This is exciting.
Yeah, man. I'm stoked to have you. Like I said, we've always had great conversations outside of soccer, you know, and a few times I've came up to the Jaramillo Casino, you know.
We're known to get some cards going.
Yeah,
for sure.
You just had your 40th birthday, man, which was an amazing time up there.
It still sounds weird, man.
Yeah.
To say 40 just sounds strange. But yeah. My wife went all out, man. We had a good party.
Yeah, your wife killed it, man. Yeah, dude, I told her, I was like, yo, good job, yo. Like, you crushed this party. Man, like, dude. It was really cool.
I told her I'm looking forward to 41, see what she's got planned for 41. She was like, nah, not happening.
Yeah. You guys have a beautiful house. That was a beautiful party. You got to meet some cool people that were from Florida, which is where you grew up at.
Yep. Yeah.
Were you born in Colombia or Florida?
I was born in Florida. So my parents and my sister born in Colombia, but I was born in Florida. And I just kind of moved around.
Okay.
Different parts of Florida, yeah.
So your parents and sister were born in Colombia. Your sister's older.
Yeah, she's got 12 years on me. She's 12 years older.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
In fact, my dad just went back to Colombia today from here. 4 a.m., yeah.
So he's still living in Colombia now? He like moved back there at some point? And...
Yeah, he moved back to, you know, he wanted to retire out there and just the easier, slower pace of life out there. So that's where he's at. And my mom's here.
Your mom's in Spokane. Okay.
Yeah.
So what year did they move from Colombia up to Florida? And what part of Florida were you guys in?
So it's an interesting story. So they actually met in the States. They met in New York. And so they were both from Colombia, met in the States. And I think the story goes in New York, or, you know, there was recession or work was tough. And so like many people, they ended up in Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, working up there. And then they were going back and forth, Florida to Alaska, and in their time in Florida, I was born, and then we moved to Alaska. So I actually feel like I was born in Alaska because my earliest memories were there. But you know, they got tired of the cold and whatnot, so we ended up back in Florida.
Okay,
and then that's where I came up all the way through college, and then moved away. And
did you say what part of Florida you guys were living in, or did you bounce around different areas?
Yeah. I was born in Central Florida in Ocala.
Okay.
We call it Slocala, but a little town outside of Orlando. And then spent kindergarten to freshman year in high school in Orlando, and then moved down to South Florida, Fort Lauderdale. And then that's where I met a lot of my friends that you met at the party.
Yeah.
And then from there moved up to Tallahassee for college. And then after that left to Arizona for grad school.
Grad school. What sports did you play growing up? Was soccer always in the picture?
Soccer was always in the picture. I think my dad wanted me to be like the next, soccer star. Like he had me playing soccer at a young age and just was really encouraging me. And so I started out with soccer, and then I wanted to branch out, started playing football and basketball. And then in the neighborhood, it was basketball. So I just grew up, you know, balling in the neighborhood, and then went back to soccer in high school. Yeah. And haven't stopped since.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Nice, man. So
I didn't have the height for basketball, you know. or the size for football. So soccer was it.
Yeah. Did you ever visit Columbia when you were young growing up? Did you guys go back there to visit other family members or?
Yeah, we did. We would go back. And in fact, we were like on the verge of moving there as a kid. And I forget what happened, why we didn't. But yeah, we'd go visit. And then it got pretty rough out there. And so we stopped going.
Yeah.
And then later on, I went back and visited. And
this is like during some of like those narcos epidemics, we're just going crazy down there.
Sadly, very familiar with that situation. Our family was, but it was kind of rough down there for a while, and then thankfully it turned around.
Yeah,
it's a
I've heard
spot now.
I heard it's not bad now as like it was, at least. Like,
right.
Obviously, there's danger anywhere you go, really, but nothing like what it was.
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's probably more dangerous here, to be honest with you. I mean,
yeah, that's what a lot of people say.
Yeah, my dad, he was here. He's telling me, he's like, man, the amount of Americans you see just living there, and all my friends that you met are actually kind of living there. They live there.
Yeah.
They get about 180 days a year, and so they've been. It's just cheap, and it's just a great place, man. So yeah. Obviously, I'm glad I stayed here. That my parents didn't move me there, but it's a fun place to visit for sure.
Do you have any like memories of visiting there when you were a kid that like stand out? Visiting Columbia, like
yeah, man.
Any like when was the first time, or what's a cool story from visiting Columbia when you were young?
Yeah, there's like the first time you ride like a horse or a donkey. I think I forget what I was on. Man, just took off down the hillside.
Yeah.
I remember we were off the coast and we were on this boat, and I forget what we were doing. I must have been like 6. And we were just cruising, and I remember it's just beautiful, and there's islands, and the boat's just ripping, and there's probably 20 people on this boat. And for whatever reason, I was like, it'd be fun to dive off this boat. And I jumped off the boat and just freaked everybody out. Like, what is this kid doing?
Yeah.
But no,
Sounds
I mean,
like me for sure.
like, why would you do that? I just felt like jumping off the boat.
Yeah.
But no, other than that, man, just the food and the people, man. That's really what stood out to me that I remember as a kid was just like the people, man. Like, the people are just so friendly and happy, and they're not like overworked and stressed and just like to themselves like you see here more. Over there, it's like everybody comes over, everybody eats, it's just
more community based.
Yeah, and they tend to really respect kind of the traditions. And so just the random thing that stands out to me is like they still do, they used to do like the milk bottles, right? They used to like deliver milk to the door, and you put they still do that with like soda. Or like, so I would walk the streets and you'd see just soda bottles all lined up, and so they just would recycle the bottles, they would reuse them. You go to the mall and there was like real silverware. I remember thinking like, wow, these are metal, it's so weird,
Yeah.
Because here's this plastic and you ditch it, it's just easy. Yeah. And there, it's not so much about doing what the easy thing is. So every time I go and I come back, I would have like, life lessons like, oh man, take care of your community, don't waste, stuff like that. Very interesting there. Like you'd get into like a really nice car. And I remember it was like back then it was like a Mazda or something. It was like, like, dang, look at that Mazda.
Yeah.
And nobody had like air conditioning, and they were all manual shift vehicles, like nobody had automatic. Even though it was a brand new car, it was like still manual, no AC. It was just different, right? Like people weren't used to all the luxuries that we have. And so I just think it was always good to go and then be like kind of reset a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah, man.
It's a beautiful place, man.
It's been too long since I've been out of the country. I want to go to Columbia for sure.
Dude, it gets you, man. You go there and you're like, oh man, I kind of want to stay here.
Why do
like,
I live in
why would
the
I go
States?
back?
Yeah, I know. Every time I've gone somewhere out of the States, I'm like, I have a hard time. I mean, that's just being real. I have a hard time wanting to come back to Spokane. Sure. I do.
But, I will say Spokane for me, and I know that's kind of the theme of this.
Yeah.
To me, has that feel. To me, it's like people ask me all the time, why did you come here? You lived in South Fort Lauderdale, Miami. Why would you come here?
Yeah.
I just like that small kind of feel, like everybody's grinding, everybody's. I feel like there's a little bit of that you don't have in big cities. Big cities, you're just another person. You're just trying to make it, trying to hustle, and over here it just seems different. So I kind of that's one of the things I like about Spokane. But I don't know how we got on that.
No, that's a good point. I like that you brought that up, because I think that a lot of people struggle with seeing what their environment is when they've only lived in it primarily or been in it primarily, and to like not see the blessings you have is it can be hard for some people, right? Like a lot of people that have moved to Spokane didn't grow up here, but moved here, love it here.
Yeah.
And you ask them why, and it could be completely different. Like a person that's grown up here could feel, and I've felt this way, and I still struggle with it, that people aren't very open here. It's cliquish here, you know, but then somebody that like people are not very open to talking here, you know, like you get some of those narratives, which are pretty common. You hear about Spokane, but then you talk to somebody that moved here and they're like, oh, people are so nice here. Bro, yeah. They're like, they're like, it's just like, I love the people here. They're where I came from. So it's like these different perspectives that you get. And I think that's, you know, a big point of the topic I do want to speak about on this podcast is like these different perspectives of Spokane, like how you see it versus how I see it, or what I struggle with, where you kind of like feel like that's a thriving factor here. So we'll just skip to that since we're on that topic for now. We can double back on some of the other stuff. But what age did you move here at? Or how long have you been in town roughly?
Man, I've been here since 11.
So a little over 10 years.
Yeah. So I was coming up on 30 when I moved here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a little bit about, I remember the first few days we were here, we're coming off I-90 on the Division X, and, you know, right by the burger joint there on the right. And
Dick's?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. And so we were at a light, and this car pulled up. It's like, lower your window, and you're just like, you know, where I'm from, it's like, like, yo, like,
that's a little.
What do you want, you know? And, he's in his car, just like, and then I'm just like, I lowered the window, and I kid you not, the dude goes, "Can you believe this weather we're having?" And I'm like, "What?" You know, just so, that's what I liked about Spokane. You know, you go to a store and they help you. You know, where I'm from, they're just like bothering people. So,
you still experience that till this day? As much?
I think you probably just get used to it.
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't stand out. But I just remember that stands out to me, where you're just like, man, this dude wants me to lower my window.
Yeah, that would be a little.
And then just tell me, like, can you believe how nice the day is? And I'm like, this is kind of weird, man. But anyway, that was for a point a minute ago. But yeah, man, I think what I like Spokane, you know, I think about this a lot because one, I do get asked this probably 5-6 times a week, honestly, with what I do. People are like, what are you doing here? Like, how'd you end up here? But I think what's cool about Spokane is we completely chose it, man. Like I have a cousin here but we just completely were like, this is where we want to be. You know, we've been all over New York, Seattle, Portland. I mean, I've been all over. I was like, nah, this is, so we chose Spokane. They didn't choose us, you know, like we didn't grow up here where you're like, oh, I kind of have to be here or whatever. It was like, no, we kind of chose it. And
how did you guys choose it? How did you come like how did the visit happen and you guys decide on this being the place?
Yeah. So when my parents and most of my family were doing the Prudhoe Bay, Alaska thing, you know, so they worked 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off or whatever. We were all in Anchorage at some point, and most moved away. Well, one of my cousins, him and his family stayed in Anchorage, and then they ended up moving to Spokane when he was in middle school. We're the same age. And so we would come visit, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we'd come visit for like Christmas or whatever every once in a while. And I was like, this place is cool, but never thought I'd live here.
Yeah.
And then I remember we went to Seattle when I was in grad school. So I went to graduate school in Arizona. Excuse me. And we went to, so my wife's best friend was getting married in Seattle, and we were out visiting. And I remember we were in bed just laying down, checking our email. And one of the directors was like, this is my last year of grad school, and it was like, hey, there's some rotations in Spokane. Well, we were just in Seattle. We're like, Washington's awesome. Arizona's hot, you know, like. And so I was like, man, what are the chances? We're here in Seattle having a great time, and 2 rotations pop up in Spokane. And she was like, if anybody's interested. And I think I called my cousin. I was like, hey, you know, could we stay with you if, you know, and he was like, absolutely. So I was like, yeah, you know, sent back, like, we're in. And my wife and I both got, we both landed the rotation. And so we were here for, the rotation was 8 weeks, 8 or 12 weeks. I can't remember, but it was like the end of summer, which is like the best, right? In Spokane. I mean, you catch the tail end of summer. So we're doing Coeur d'Alene and all that. Then the fall came in and we're like, oh, this place is dope, man. This is the spot. So we were camping, we were fly fishing, we're doing it. I was like, man, we're moving back. This is the spot. So we did our 12 weeks and went back to Phoenix, wrapped up school, did our thing, lived there for another year or two, and then we're like, all right, man, it's time to go. So we just rolled up, man. We just moved. No job or nothing, man. We just loaded a trailer and just showed up.
So you didn't know you wanted to open a practice when you moved here, or?
Yeah, that was actually one of my downfalls in grad school, because that's all I could think about. I was in class just thinking, how do I open a clinic? How do I do these things? And when I should have been paying attention more in class, but I was just like building. I always knew, I was like, that's the only way I'm going to do this, is open a place. So when we moved here, we didn't want to be committed, right, to like a job, or like committed to just being tied down. So we started a contracting business. So we just kind of filled in around town just to kind of get to know the different places and feel out where we wanted to be, check the vibe out, like how rehab rolls here. It's just different everywhere you go. And so we just did that for a little while. And my first contracting gig, they just like, what's it going to take to get you to stay? And I was like, throughout my ideal scenario, they're like, cool, done. So I was like, all right, I guess I got a job. And so we did that, man. And it kind of got a little messy, and that practice was struggling a bit. And Stacy was pregnant with Gavin, our oldest. And he was due just like the day after Christmas. And we had been toying with the idea of a practice, but it was like, we're not ready. We just moved here. We have a kid on the way. Like, just put that, just set that aside for a little bit. And just before Christmas, man, the director took me to lunch, and I'm like, and I was kind of building up their practice. I was bringing new clients in. I revamped them from paper to electronic. I mean, I did a lot for them. I was there for like 8 months. And the dude's like, Juan, appreciate what you're doing, but we got to let you go, man. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, dude, we just did all this stuff. We're bringing you up. What are you talking about? They're like, well, we got some stuff going on. And so this was like 2 days before our kid was supposed to be born. I get laid off, and I was like, damn, all right. So I'm like, all right, so we have the baby to do our thing. And then I was like, oh, man, I got to like find a job. So I interviewed. I got this offer, and I was like, damn, that's a nice offer, but I can't do it, man. I can't do it. We got to do our own thing. And so Stacy she pushed me. She was like, yeah, let's do this. And I was like, terrible timing, like it cannot be worse, And she was like, let's do it. And so we did, man. We just kind of new in town, didn't know anybody, and just started a practice, just kind of out of necessity, really, because I got to let go. And that was the start, man. That's how we started. Kind of a fast track way to that story, man. But yeah,
I like it. So that's a tough situation, emotionally, mentally, like all that. That's gotta be, it's challenging regardless of how you process it. So like, what were some of the emotions that you dealt with in that time, and like ultimately coming to that decision to be like, no, we got to do it? Or was it pretty quick that you came to that conclusion, and it was like, I don't got time to sit here and feel any of these things. I got a kid. Yeah. I'm not going to rely on nobody else. I'm going to start my own thing.
Man,
how did it go?
I wish I could say like, I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Right.
Like I got this. Yeah. No,
we would all want to be able.
I was scared. I was terrified, man.
Terrified, right? Yeah.
Well, again,
I would be. I would be.
Well, I think as a father, as a guy, like you just have these thoughts. I got to provide. I got to protect. I can't put my family at risk. All those things, and logic really kicked in, man. Logic was like, it's dumb. Like you don't know anybody here. All these things, and it's like, all right. And then my wife's, she's more like fire, aim, ready. She was like, what's the problem? I'm just like, what do you mean? What's the problem? Like, are you kidding me? But so she was kind of that pushing force, and I was kind of like, okay, let's figure this out. Think about it. Fear, confident, just back and forth.
Yeah.
But I think we've just always had that mentality, like, if it's meant to be, if it's right, it'll work out. And if it's not, you'll see the signs pretty quickly, you know. And you can recover from anything. It's kind of what the mentality we've always had. So that was it, man. It was a emotional roller coaster, man. Like for me, you know, just I think just fear, you know, but really, like I said, just fearful, but dove right in. And
yeah, I think fear is healthy and natural. It's just how you deal with it, and whether you let it cripple you, immobilize you, or if you let it drive you, you know. As I think when you're nervous about something, or you know, have fear about something that you kind of have a dream about, or deep down feel like that's what I want to do. That's really what I want to do.
Right.
But can I? Should I?
Right.
Then that's the thing you should do. You should make happen, because that fear is typically, especially with starting a business, it's not going to physically injure life. Essentially. You know what I mean? Most likely.
Yeah.
The ratio is in your favor, right? You're probably gonna make it out of that,
right?
You know, and so understanding that fight or flight stress response that we get to making a decision like that, it can be hard to get to that place where like, I'm not gonna die, we're gonna be all right. Worst case scenario is really not that bad,
right?
Like, might as well go for it. So, and it sounds like Stacy kind of was like more kind of like your support in making that decision. Like, we're gonna be all right. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And helped. That's great, man. Having that support system with somebody, because like we all go through phases. Sometimes, and it seems to always be this way. Typically, like there's one person in the relationship, and that role can switch. It's not just always one person. Like, one person's dealing with something, making a decision, and the one is there to support, and then it flips and it's the other way a lot of times, you know, where that support system's so important, man, to have. And
a team, man. Having that good team. And her and I just being a two-person team was great. And now as we've grown, that team, the needs of that team continue to grow. I mean, you just have to have all those right pieces in there, man. But yeah, man.
So what year did you start the business then? You said you were here around 2011 or so. Yeah.
So our oldest was born in January of 12. And I remember we were doing the build outs. So we both were contracting, right? So she had a contract that she was able to go right back to. I forget, 2 months after, you know, she delivered. And so since I didn't have a gig, I was kind of like, all right, I'm gonna stay home with the baby, do all the baby, and then just like negotiate contracts and do whatever. So I just remember I was timing stuff around his nap time, you know, like, all right, he's napping, I'm gonna make these calls, you know, or like dealing with the contractor. All right, I got the baby in my arm, and I'm in the building as a build out, you know, and then I like, you know, telling the dudes, all right, turn the saws off for a little bit. He's sleeping. Let's talk, you know, just like, just doing that. And so, 2012 was when we got rolling. Yeah. So he was about 2 months old. So I would say spring of 12 is when we got rolling.
So you've hit your 10-year mark.
Yeah.
This year. 10-year anniversary.
10 year. Yeah.
That's huge, man.
It's crazy.
10 years it's a good run.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And all the stuff that's happened in between is wild. But yeah, man, 10 years. It's weird to think about. It's weird like saying 40. Like I'm 40. It's weird. Yeah. I feel like we just opened, you know?
Right. I hear you, man. I'm not 40, I'm 33, but I know like 40's coming quick.
Yeah.
And I think about where I'm going to be when I'm 40, you know, and that's why it's good having, you know, friends like you in my life now that are older, not by much, but you're older, but you have your, you know, dots in a row from what I see. You know what I mean? You got, it all looks nice. You know what I mean? You seem to be living a pretty well-balanced life. Like, I come over to your house and I'm like, this is the vibe, you know, this is like, I'm serious though. You know what I mean? Like, this is like the things that I want to attain, but also attain with being a balanced and well-minded person, which you have, like you're into spirituality, you're into like a lot of different aspects of life that I'm into. You're into outdoor sports. You have a business centered around wellness, really, and helping people be well. And I don't think mine will be in the medical field as much, but similar as I want to help people out, with city chapters and figure out how to build good community, good friendships, like.
Yeah, man.
So
healthcare or whatever you want to call, anything. It's just a tool, right, to accomplish the same thing, right? So that's good, man. I love seeing people do that, And you talked about balance. When I was an undergrad, when you do you're doing pre-med and you're trying to decide, all right, what am I going to do? What am I going to become? And I remember when I was interviewing different types of, I knew I wanted to go clinical. I knew I wanted to be a healthcare provider, but what kind was the question? And I had interest, man. I was like, for a while there, I wanted to be I'd worked in a biomedical research facility, and so we would do like these surgeries on animals, just kind of it's looked upon now that not so favorable, but at the time, you would do these procedures like, for a while I was like, man, I want to be a surgeon, or like I want to be, whatever. But every time I'd go down that road, it was like, that's not going to produce a good work-life balance. I would be like, what kind of hours? Working 70 hours. Just crazy, like lots of demand and liabilities and just all these things. And I was like, nah. So that was one of my drivers, actually about that balance. So I started out that way, is what's going to let me explore what I'm interested in, what I'm good at. But most importantly, man, what's going to give me that balance of like not running myself to the ground, And physical therapy kind of checked all those boxes. So that thought just popped in my head when you said that. I was like, I started from the beginning. How am I going to get that work life, that balance of just like not being overworked and being able to think and rest and enjoy, And so
that's huge, man. Like, I don't want all the money and not have time for myself, for rest,
Right.
I'm definitely trying to, at Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week, like I'm trying to chill, do the things I love, work on some projects and make really good money. I think inevitably I'm trying to like blaze my own path, but along that way, like I've also I've not pushed hard on certain things because I'm like, I could see where that could consume me. And if I'm going to be consumed by something, I think naturally it'll be something that I just wake up and put all my energy into, like snowboarding is one of those things, but I'm not at a current place where that's going to pay me, and I'll never be a pro, but I still think there's ways I can navigate snowboarding and business to get hooked up on gear, which I've actually recently been able to do that with a company, where like I'm trading my services and I'm getting gear for a lot at a really good price compared to what I would pay cash for it at retail price, And so there are some of those things that are starting to happen where like my skill sets are like helping me advance in my hobbies too.
Nice.
And I think with city chapters, there's all sorts of opportunities of ways that I can work with companies and brands to gain me access to different things if I wasn't doing this kind of work, And I've already seen it happen multiple times with what I do with city chapters. So, but that's the thing, like, like I see people that own businesses and I mean, it destroys people. Like, at what cost are you going to run your business and be your own boss, but you're your own slave too.
Right.
And I've come to realize too, like, I don't need a lot to live good, I want to, of course, make good money and have nice things, but I don't need a lot of things is also what I've come to realize. I'm like, currently I'm like, I have too much stuff. I've been trying to get rid of stuff, minimalize, you know, like I only like to wear like really like one pair of jeans that are my jeans. I love those jeans. I'll wear those every day. I don't care. You know, it doesn't matter to me what anybody else thinks if I'm wearing my same jeans, because it's just like those are my most comfortable. I keep them clean, you know, or whatever I own is clean. It's nice, but I don't need to have hundreds of options in my shoes or like, you know, and I have homies that are that way, and that's for them, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's like, and I have homies that are like live and breathe their business, you know, and they love it. And that's great. You know what I mean? But what somebody else is doing or what you see somebody else having success in doesn't necessarily mean that's the right recipe for you. And I think that's where you got to be careful. Like we're told, oh, you need to work day in, day out on your business. There is no sleep. There is no weekends. Like if you want to be successful, you have to do these things. That's not true. You know, like that's just what you're being propagated. And if you eat that up and set that as your truth, then that is going to be your truth, you know. But there's also more than ever, you see plenty of people that live a free life and make good money and have nice things and do what they want to do. And they just, you know, the earth is their turf. I love that saying from Mac Dre. You know, that's some old school.
I like that.
The earth is my turf. You know, that's like an old line from a Mac Dre song. And that's how I try to practice that abundant mindset. And it's hard, you know, like there's times, of course, where you deal with like, I'm not doing enough when you try to find balance in your own life and you're like, oh, I know I need to work more. So I say all that to just say like, it's a constant battle with me and like finding the balance. And, you know, that's good that from the get-go, like you kind of were really thinking ahead of like, okay, if I do take this job, this career, being a surgeon, whatever, like what does that really mean for me long term? So to have that
kind of, well, you know, it comes from, I think it's a biblical principle. I don't remember if it was somebody taught this based on biblical principles, but the saying always stood out in my mind, and it says to begin with the end in mind.
I like that. I've heard it before, but not in a while.
Yeah, so I apply that to there's a few things I apply to most major decisions that I'm involved in, but that's one of the ones on the top. You know, begin with the end in mind. So if I look, what does the end look like for me? And so you start from the end and just work backwards. So this decision I'm about to make, does that line up with how I want the end to be? You know, and if they don't line up, then it's probably not the right decision. You know. And so everything I've gone into, I always think about it like that.
It's a really good principle, especially I'm thinking of snowboarding right now because it's like definitely been pushing the boundaries and starting to get training for backcountry riding. And, you know, that's a scary and amazing place. It's amazing, but what's that end going to look like as far as like the terrain I choose and like the risks I'm willing to take back there, because I want to push my limits in snowboarding, but I don't know if I want to die for it. You know what I mean? Like, what am I willing to risk to ride for what cause? Like, what's that end look like? Me under an avalanche? That shit scares the hell out of me, as it should, you know? And some people they like, that's okay with them, you know? But, I like, you know, using like the sports analogies because, I don't know, it just helps me kind of conceptualize in a different way than when I just think strictly on business. Yeah. But I like that. What is that end gonna look like? Yeah.
You know, kind of using that as an example of the snowboarding. It's almost like if so, like what I do to me is what I was completely meant to do, right? It's completely I feel like we're all born with natural gifts and talents. Purpose. Yeah, like that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Well, like if the snowboarding is that, then you almost look at it is those consequences, not that they don't matter,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't want to sacrifice what you're supposed to be doing for the fear of a consequence, you know? So I was kind of looking at it like that way.
Yeah.
So when we go back to when we opened up, and if we would have failed or whatever, it's like, well, it doesn't matter because this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So if I fail, it's because I missed the lesson that I should have gotten, or I got ahead of myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it kind of humbles you. Like you got to go pay your dues a little bit more. You know, like you have to go learn a little more. You weren't ready, or that's kind of how I look at it. If we would have failed, and the same thing with the snowboarding. You know, I mean, if that's what you're supposed to do, and that's your talent, and that's your, you know, if you accomplish that, and now you could die a happy man, like I did my thing, then it is what it is. That's what you got to do. You know, that's why I always look at it like that.
I agree. Fear is a difficult thing to navigate sometimes because, you know, to live a full life, you have to conquer your fears.
Yeah.
And regardless of how safe I might want to be in the backcountry, there's going to be variables that maybe I can't foresee or control. And you have to accept that regardless of when you go out there.
Yeah.
And that same thing applies in business. You know, there's all sorts of changes in my 5 years of owning, almost 6 years now. Well, let me think. I guess I'm really basically 6 years now.
So you coming up on 10 also.
Yeah, I'm basically at 6 years. So that's, yeah. This month I'm at like 6 years officially, like since I quit my job and started my businesses. So,
Which, by the way, man, your
your
stuff is nice, man. This fits real good. The shirt you made for us, the sweaters, money, man. You got a real talent, man. I'm a fan of your work.
Appreciate it. Yeah, man, I've been doing this like clothing thing since 2011 after I got out of jail from like doing 6 months. And, you know, that's kind of where I came up with the idea to start my own businesses and clothing. And yeah, man, I started off with zero graphic design skills, making some graphics off some like Mac app, like that was just not Illustrator, you know, basically like Paint or something, you know. It wasn't that bad, but it was somewhere around that area. And you know, printed my first shirts on Gildan t-shirts and and now to see like where I've came to now, you know, I was just so foolish in my 20s, really. I just didn't, and I didn't have the presence of mind, man. I was like, I really was really pretty messed up in my 20s, even after getting out of jail and stuff, like getting my life together to start thinking like a professional. That's a hard concept to realize, like, that you're a professional, right? And whatever you do, like, people like always feel like I'm not good enough, right? I think most people feel that way, you know. And well, I can't say that I've felt that way. I can't speak for most people.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I'm trying to be better about speaking in general for people because I don't know how most people really truly feel.
Yeah.
But for myself, you know, I kind of dealt with not feeling good enough, even though I always got a lot of recognition from friends and people in the community, or even people I didn't know, like, I love your stuff. But to me, it was never good enough. It's never been good enough. And only till recently have I started, like, you know, I do try to approach and do things in the best way possible that I feel I can at the time. And if I look back at it and I'm like, oh, things could have been better, then I'll work on that in the future. But I don't really feel that what I do is not good enough anymore. Like, I feel like I've reached a plateau and a level to where, like, everything that I touch, I make sure, like, it's gonna be quality. It's gonna meet the certain standards that I've set for what I want my work to represent. And that my clients, if it's from my client-based business, are going to be happy with the whole process that I provide them compared to what some of my competitors offer.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the compliment. It's great to like deliver somebody goods and them be really happy with it.
Sure.
Because that's obviously my end goal. And I'm getting finally back into designing city chapters gear. It's going to be focused on just for Spokane. And we got these beanies. Juan is wearing one. These beanies, we made 3 colors: black, dark green, navy. And the patch on it says Spokane for the love of the city. And, those are going to be available on the website and whatnot. But it felt good to make these, and get back in the game with some new merchandise.
You said something there that resonates with me. Is kind of everything that you touch, you try and just give it your all. Mm-hmm. And when people ask me about business or like how'd you get started, or if people were wanting to get into business or whatever, I think that's what's going to make you successful. I think that's what's going to be the deciding factor ultimately, whether you're going to survive in the short term or in the long term. Is if that's your sole purpose every single day, is to just make whatever you touch better. Like whether it's a beanie, a sweater, whether it's, whatever the business is, eventually you'll start to just propel past everybody else, and it might not produce in a year or 2 or 5 or 10, but eventually it'll blow up, for you. And so I think just hearing you say that, I'm like, oh man, I mean, I already see the quality, but I think continuing to do that, where you're going to be in 6 months or 12 or 5 years.
Yeah.
There's going to be nobody doing what you're doing, to that level.
Yeah. I've struggled with business, like struggled.
Welcome, everybody.
Right.
Yeah,
and I think that's the thing people need to know too, is like your purpose might disappear for some time, but if it's really deep in you, you're not going to give up on it. You're going to sit back and realign yourself and try to figure out what you need to do differently. And I guess that's probably the one thing in me, like, with city chapters and what I do with clothing, is like there is something deep down in me that feels like this is a part of what I'm supposed to do. And I just know, like Nipsey Hussle said, like one of the defining factors for him was just that he never gave up. You know, I think that's one of the most essential things in business that you hear from most people that are successful or were, like Steve Jobs said, like, you better love what you do or you won't have what it takes, because it will break you. It's going to test you on every level. And it certainly has tested me. I just keep getting back up and trying again. And, the podcast itself is giving me a lot more purpose again, because I just love having these type of conversations and learning from people and how they think about business or what they've been through. So I guess going into that, one thing too I wanted to mention is, like, I was talking about being a professional, and I think one thing that is important, if you're going to start off in business and you've done your due diligence and you've listened to people in business, is like approach the business and act as if you already are a professional in what you do. Yeah. Like, you got to do your research and do the things. And I think getting going is important too. Like, sometimes you just jump in, and that, like you said, you're on this boat. Yeah. I'm just jumping in. Like, sometimes that's just how it has to go in life, but if you jump in and you like recover, then it's like, okay, like, I'm in it. How do I start acting as a professional? Yeah. Because the other part with where we're at in society is like, dude, there's so many people trying to do something. If you have any chance, you have to try to do things at a top quality tier. Otherwise, you're just not gonna, I don't feel maintain a relevancy that can last, you know?
Right.
But if people know you're at least making an attempt to be professional, you're trying to do the best that you can, and that best can look pretty meek when you look back at it 10 years from now. Like 10 years ago, I look at what I created, Gildan t-shirts and stuff, like not at a very good quality level of what my level is at now, but I kind of just jumped in, and it's taken me down this road of just learning how to get better.
Right.
But I think that professional mind state I think it's important. I just feel like when you start thinking like I am a professional, you tell yourself I'm a professional at whatever you do. You just start.
You just do it.
You just start making professional level stuff.
Right.
But if you're like, oh, am I good enough? Are people gonna think I'm good enough? Then that kind of shows in your work, you know.
Right.
But if you switch that professional mind state on, like your work's just gonna be that much better.
Oh, for sure, man. There's a again, not like a biblical scholar or anything, but there's a few things that have helped me. One of them was I can't remember where it is but it says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he."
Yeah.
So like that, what you think is what you are, right?
Yeah.
And so many people have said that in different ways, but kind of like when you're saying professional, or just sometimes we get like this imposter type syndrome.
Yeah.
Like, I don't belong here. But it's like, well, man, if you really just believe that you are, and you just convince yourself, then you start making moves like you are that person already. And I think you said a little while ago that you struggle with sometimes maybe not believing in yourself or whatever, man. And I had the opposite problem where, and again, I don't know why, how I got like this, but sometimes I believe in myself too much, and I'm like, yo, let's slow down a little bit. Like you're not there, you gotta, but really it's, man, what you really think. And so I've just kind of always used that to make sure, whether it's playing soccer or like in business, it was always like, man, I belong here. It's what I'm supposed to be doing. And then,
For sure.
And it just works out, man. It's weird. It just works out.
Yeah. That
but you have that doubt, man.
Faith, man. Yeah, faith. If, like you're saying, like, you're not a biblical scholar or anything, but the Bible has so many great principles and whatever you want to call theories or principles, I guess, right? Like ways,
it's people that have done it before,
right?
Just because it was a long time ago, we tend to like write it off, like, oh, it's different now. It's the same.
No,
they were going through similar things back then.
Yeah.
It's just, I think people had a lot more clarity, had less distractions back then, so there's a lot more wisdom way back then, I feel. But yeah, man, it applies. I think it applies.
You said, "As a man thinketh, so he is." Basically, there's a book, "As a Man Thinketh."
Oh yeah.
I think it's James Allen that writes it, but you could just look up that book. Anybody listening, "As a Man Thinketh," that's a great book. That basically goes into the law of attraction, manifestation. It is like based off the Bible, the book, but it's really short and easy to read. But it basically covers exactly what you're talking about. What you think about, you become.
Yeah,
and that's why like affirmations or like repeating to yourself, you are what you want to be, whatever that is. And you keep telling yourself that to override the lizard brain that's trying to instill that fear in you and trying to stop you from whatever you want to attain and whatever you want to do. I mean, we look at certain people that live these crazy lives as if they're on this other realm. I think it's even getting to a place where it's like, these people don't even seem real to us anymore. The things that these people do, like through all these social medias and things that we see, it's like, oh, that's so cool. This thing is happening with this person out there, but this is really a person who's really out in the world doing this ludicrous thing. And people are out of their freaking minds and the things that they accomplish and do. Like, when I watch snowboarders, I'm like, how can somebody huck themselves off a kick like that and cover that much ground or that big of a gap and do something so smoothly and think that they could go do something like that? But they did it, and they incrementally work their way up to being at that level. But the biggest thing is they believe they could do it.
Right.
And that's the difference. Like, people who believe they can go do insane things, it's because they believe they can.
Yeah.
They don't accept that notion in their mind, like, oh, that could kill me, or that whatever it is, the fear, they overcome the fear. And, I think that's another thing I love about snowboarding for myself, is overcoming fear.
Yeah.
Cause like last year, I've always rode hard and, been a decent rider. But like last year, I really feel like I pushed myself a lot further than I ever did in any season. Like I got my Wildcats down, which is like a just straight backflip. I got other variable backflips down. Like I really pushed. And I was 32 last year. Like most people aren't learning backflips at 32. Yeah. And I've been riding since I was 6, so I knew how to do it in my head. But it was always like a thing, like, oh, there's not enough powder, or there's not enough, like whatever. I don't need to be doing backflips or whatever. But last year I got to a place where I was like, I don't think I can live with myself calling myself an avid snowboarder if I don't got my Wildcats down. If I don't got flips down, like I need to be doing that. And I literally pretty much landed my first one. Like it was just, that was, you know what I mean? Like just like, but to me, the way I was processing it in my head was like, dog, like you need to face your fears. And if you can face your fears snowboarding and going and hucking yourself into a backflip, then coming and doing things in business or whatever it is, it's not as scary, Yeah. It's just like, yeah, I can do that. Like this isn't really that scary, and I'm not gonna even get hurt.
Right.
My feelings may get hurt, but my feelings have been shattered so many times in life. Once you get to a certain age, like you either overcome it and keep pushing, or you let it destroy you and start breaking you down. And I think we all go through those waves, like where no matter what, life can get overwhelming, but it's just that point in time where you're going to have to decide like enough's enough, and I'm going to start building myself back up. So
I like it, man.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So for snowboard, I'm not recommending if people to go try backflips on snowboards to overcome your fears. That was my story. So
I like it though, man.
Don't try that at home, unless you're good enough at
Yeah, man. Yeah. I watch those guys. I don't know how people do that, but
yeah. And then there's still levels that I'm like, I don't think I would ever try that. It just seems insane. So you mentioned earlier principles that you kind of use in making decisions. We mentioned the one, which wasn't as a man. What was the one?
Begin with the end in mind.
Begin with the end in mind. What are some of the other ones that you use?
Man, there's so many. Another one that there's probably at least 3 that I use for everything. Another one is, well, this was by a guy named Brian Clemmer, who had a personal mastery leadership development course. He's sadly passed away, but his company is still going. But they had something called the success formula, or the formula. I forget what they called it, but it was basically intention plus mechanism equals result. And so, he would write it up there. Intention plus mechanism equals result. And so you would just talk about it, and you'd be like, all right. And so, for example, somebody's like, I want to start a business. It's my intention. What's your mechanism? I'm going to sell shoes. That's how I'm going to I'm going to be successful. And that's going to equal my result, my success, right? And so what he would do with the formula is he would cross out the mechanism. And the formula really was intention equals result. And so it hit real deep when he kind of talked about it, because he kind of illustrated that the mechanism was irrelevant. It was purely your intention. So anytime I look at something, you know, whether it's, I don't know, sports, soccer, or business, or, you know, whatever. So I was like, what's my real intention? And so I think what it helps me, or I think it will help anybody figure out, is really what your intention is. You know what I mean? And so it helps me figure out, like, oh, I thought this is what I wanted when I did this, but I'm actually, no, I wanted this other thing. And that's not conducive to the other formulas, begin with the end in mind. So really the intentions is deep, man, is real deep. So for example, like I use the example of, like, you know, let's say I've been out of the game a long time, so I haven't had to talk to a girl in a long time, right? But, like, let's say you're real interested in, you know, so see somebody real attractive, like, hey, I want to go get her number or something, right? Then you're like, all right, your intention is you want to get to know this girl, you want to get her number or whatever.
Yeah.
But then you're like, nah, like, oh, well, she's, you know, and you back out, right? If you look at, like, why didn't you go do it? Your intention wasn't to go get a number. Your intention was to not look bad.
Yeah.
Right?
That's really good.
Or not to fail.
Yeah.
I really don't want to. So you look at somebody like, what are you really trying to do? I don't want to look bad. Yeah, that's your real intention. And guess what? You got it, because you look great. You didn't say anything. You got what your intention was to not look bad. And so
that's a great analogy right there of how to work that system.
It's deep, man. So like when you look at, apply that to any relationship, your work, your business, your hobbies, whatever it is, when you look at it like that, your intentions become real clear. Real clear. Like, so it's helped me figure things out. And what you find out
got me thinking about it, because I went through that course as well.
Yeah.
That you're talking about. But the way you just explained it, using a man approaching a woman, that just like pulled the blinders off further the way I understood it prior. You know, like, what are you, like, really pulling back what your true intention is. And
so what he said there, and I don't remember how the facilitator said it there, but what Brian Clemmer said to me was, he said, when the intention is clear, the mechanism will appear. You know, and so I've always been like, all right. So when we started the business, that's what it was. What's your intention? I'm doing a clinic. Like, what if you fail? I don't even see that. That's not even an option. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
And the mechanism appeared, and the mechanism was a very specific relationship in the healthcare community that really helped us take off. It was just like one of those random meetings that changes your life, you know? And so that happened. And I believe that it happened because my intention was 100% clear. It was like, this is what we're doing. And so that to me is one of those forms. I don't know if you're going to ask me something about that, but
no,
but you know, the mechanism, people say, well, you know, it takes money to make money. All right, so the mechanism is money. I'm like, nah, money, it doesn't take money to make money.
No.
It takes an intention. I'm like, what is that intention? Well, a lot of people don't want to do what you need to do, you know, and it's grind, study, sacrifice, grind, sacrifice to achieve what your intention. A lot of people are like, I want to be rich. Well, you got to give up 10 years of your life. Well, I don't really want to do that. I just want, and you're like, well, what's your intention? You want to have your time, your freedom. You want to be able to do whatever you want, and you want those things. It just doesn't work that way for most. You know? And so, yeah, that's those are kind of. I think I've got more, but those are the ones that really stand out. Is begin with the end in mind. The intention equals result, and drawing a blank on the other one. But.
Yeah. Intention.
Oh, as a man thinketh in his heart. Yeah.
Yeah. Having clarity on your intention, I think it really all does start from there. Like, start with why or whatever you want to get down to, because if you don't know what you want or where you want to go, how do you expect to arrive there? You know, like.
Yeah, and even if you do, which a lot of people do, you're going to fail. Like, a lot of people, get unlucky by being successful in the beginning.
Yeah.
Look at this FTX thing going on right now. That dude was nowhere near ready for the amount of success that he had. Now,
what is this?
The crypto, the trading guy just lost billions of dollars of the whole thing collapsed in like a day.
Yeah.
And he had everybody fooled.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, Mr. Wonderful, all these people, they all had their money in it. And I look at that situation.
The coin was called FTX?
Well, FTX was like the trading platform. I believe it was like a
Coinbase or something.
Yeah.
It was like a crypto wallet.
Yeah, it's something like that. I don't understand that world a whole lot, but basically, like when I look at that, and you hear the guy talk, and you're like, man, the dude was nowhere. He was nowhere near ready.
Yeah,
and he just got lucky, but kind of unlucky because now he's in jail.
They locked him up, huh?
Yeah, like a few days ago. And you're like, dude, he probably was a good guy. He's probably just a regular guy. Got swept up. Tried to cut a few corners. I don't know. I don't want to speak on I don't know a whole lot about it, but just a little bit. You're like, people like that, just you haven't paid your dues. You haven't done everything you need. You got unlucky that you had a crazy amount of success in the beginning. You had a terrible crash,
Yeah. I wonder about attaining success quickly, like major success quickly, because that can be amazing in that moment, but I think it's incredibly difficult to maintain it. Like you could take one hit wonders for an example. Like, this person made this one great song, but they didn't really have the work ethic or the recipe to keep doing that over and over and over again. They kind of got lucky, it blew up, but then the real back end work that makes that happen over and over and over again was not there. You know what I mean? And so people that kind of incrementally work their way up to success are going to have way more experience and way more knowledge how to kind of maintain what they've built than people who just like do something that works out and then they got to figure it out from there. And there's people that do make it work. I mean, at some point, if you really love it and you got ahead right away, like, and you love it enough, you're going to figure it out how to make it happen again, But obviously you hear that with a lot of performers or actors, like, how do you stay relevant?
Yeah.
Staying relevant in whatever you do is always going to be the challenge,
always, man.
Or, like in, like kind of what you do, like, it comes down to relevancy, but keep researching and training and understanding the different methods that are being updated. Like I just took this first aid course for wilderness training and backcountry training. And it's like, you have to like update these books like every 2 years, like methods that were used 2 years ago in first aid aren't being used anymore. It's something new and evolving at all times. And that's where being like a professional comes into play, like that you have to like continually want to keep learning about what you do.
Yeah.
And I've failed at that miserably, whether it's graphic design skills or different things. Like I have my base skill set, which gets me through, but am I really researching and learning and educating myself the way that I should be? So that I stay current with skill sets and shortcuts and different things that you can learn in these programs or whatever it is that you do, So like, as I've gotten older, this is where I'm trying to find the balance, like research and education in my life, not just work and not just play, like I feel like reading, research, watching YouTube, whatever it is, instead of scrolling on Instagram, and looking at bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm on the shitter, looking at social media, I could be looking and learning something on YouTube. Like, how are you using your time?
Right.
And I've realized a lot of times I'm just like bored and not using my time for education when I could be, and it's like, I got to be better at that. I know I can be. Like I got to a place recently where I'm like, reading is the most important thing for me, but then work comes up and it requires a lot of time. And so then I put reading on the back end. And it's not that I don't have time for reading. It's not that I'm not prioritizing my reading the way that I should be. And I'll read, but it's not reading the way that I want to read, you know? And so it's like constant balance. You'll never be balanced. Like that doesn't, I don't think, really truly exist. You can have a moment of balance, I believe, you know? It's like in a moment, and maybe a day. At least my experience, maybe a day. You can feel balanced. You're like, oh man, everything's good right now. And tomorrow, you know, who knows what it brings, you know, and then you have to deal with your mind and the, you know, not feeling overwhelmed. It's a constant battle to feel and work on balance, feeling healthy too, mentally, running a business. How do you deal with some of those things, like staying mentally healthy, the demands of your business, clients, employees?
Well, you know,
there's a lot.
Right. And you know what's interesting is going back to that part where when I got laid off and I came back and I took that first job interview, and he's actually a buddy of mine that offered me the job. He is now. We met because I interviewed with him, and he gave me a piece of paper and gave me the offer, and I read it, and I remember it was like a prison sentence. I saw that, and my heart, my whole, just everything just collapsed. And it wasn't him. It was just in general. And what I saw was consistency, safety, like repetitive. That's what I saw, and to me that was like terrible. So like for me, I think why we've been able to be somewhat successful, and I've been able to have a enjoyable business ownership time so far, has been that I thrive on things being unstable. Like somebody quits, I'm like, let's go, let's figure this out, man. They were great, but the next one, or like that job that I was with when I first moved here. The building literally exploded. I was coming to work one day. I'm pulling up, and a big ball of fire just blows up like a bomb went off. And I'm like, what the? So I showed up, and literally it was a dentist. It was a dental practice on the first floor. We were on the second floor. Their tanks exploded and blew up the whole building. This was in front of the Valley Hospital. Wow. And I was in my element, man. Like, obviously not like I'm excited about it. I'm hoping nobody got hurt and all that stuff, but I'm like, let's roll. Like, what do we got to do? And I remember at the time that the practice owner, he was stunned. He didn't know what to do. And I'm like, listen, this is what we call. We go here. We get the employee. To me, that's just how I operate in dysfunction. So, not dysfunction, but like in like chaos, like changes.
Yeah, I hear you.
And so when people are like, hey, I want to go into business or whatever, and they're like, not that type, I'm like, dude, like, stuff's never gonna be smooth. Like you gotta enjoy that. So for me, I enjoy that. So it doesn't get me down. In fact, I enjoy the challenge. When stuff's been the same and safe, and I'm just like, I'm ready for something.
Figure out a way to make.
But I will say I do have a very limited amount of brain power in the day that I can dedicate to stuff. So like if I have 20 things I got to do and I got brain power for 8, I'm gonna pick 8, and you know, it drives our staff crazy because like, dude, I need you to do this. You know, we got front office, our office manager. Basically, she's always on me. I need you to do this. I'm like, all right, and I just don't do it. And I'm like, look, I'm putting my brain power to this, and I'm not compromising. It's not a great thing. I should be able to do more, but I'm willing to let stuff like sit to not over leverage myself, basically. And it's that same principle, begin with the end in mind. Do you want to be overworked and stressed and worn out? No. Yeah. Maybe we don't get paid on stuff. I'm cool. A few grand on the table, that's cool. Like, I just walk away from it. Not a great thing to do, but that's how I manage it. You know, I keep a certain amount of sanity, I guess. You know? But yeah.
I hear you, man. I've had to learn that along the way, like letting go of things, things you can't get to or control, or because it'll if you try to worry about those things or try to get them all done and you can't, you just physically can't. It it'll zap you, dude. It'll take everything from you.
Yeah.
Then the next day you don't have the energy, you know. Yeah, so learning how to let go of things that aren't on the priority truly is like important, I think. And I like something that I've had to learn too is you know, I've been hearing this saying a lot lately, but you know, tell God your plans and he'll laugh. You know, like you can't control everything, and things are not going to go how you want them to go a lot of the times. Maybe most of the time. It depends.
Yeah.
Sometimes things are just flowing. And then other times it could be the simplest of tasks that you go to accomplish, and all sorts of unforeseen weird factors can come into play, you know, and like I'm way better than I used to be, but that used to drive me into like psychotic states. Like literally I'd just be so pissed off because something's not going my way, the way that I want it to go. But the world doesn't care what you want all the time. You know what I mean? The universe doesn't care. Sometimes it's going to work with you. And then other times it's whatever. Yeah, it is what it is. You know what I mean? And like you can throw a fit about it. You can be pissed off about it. You can do whatever you want to do, but it's not going to change anything. It's only going to make those things worse, you know, typically.
Sure.
Well,
you know, a big part of that is kind of a lead in into like your team, you know, something that, again, I just was natural for me. I can't say that I developed this on my own or anything like that, but you know, ego is huge. And when that vision is so clear, like what you want to do and what you're trying to accomplish, a lot of people let their ego get in the way. Like, only I can do this, you know, or like, nah, they'll never do it as good. So for me, when I was looking for a team, I was always like, man, I got to find people that are better than me, you know?
Yeah.
Because I've got 20 things I need to get done, but I only got power for 8. Bring in other like-minded people and not feel threatened. Oh, they're going to get more recognition than me. And to me, I'm like, I hope you get more recognition than me because I'm driven and I love what I do. And if you outperform me, damn, that's amazing.
That's a good factor.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Drives you further, right?
Oh, well, yeah. And I don't do it for me. I'm just like, I know what I'm putting into it.
Yeah.
And everybody around me is outperforming. I'm like, dude, that's...
I love that. I'll just hop in real quick on that because I love being around people that are better than me.
Yeah.
I love it. In fact, I don't like not being around people not better than me. Like I hate when I'm not around people that aren't better than me at whatever, because when I acclimate to the people I'm around. Like you hear that, you know, like hang around 10 broke people or 9, you'll be the 10th. If you hang around 9 broke people, you're going to be the 10th, right? You are who you hang out with. So like I always rise up to the level of people that are better than me, or I get close, you know, like I start like, oh, I'm coming up. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. You know, if I hang out with people, like you'll see me, like you've seen me on the field or whatever. It's like when we play at a certain level, like we acclimate up, you know, like if I play or snowboard with certain people, like, okay, these guys are better than me. And I love that. You know, I love riding with guys that are way better than me at like air, like doing tricks and like rails or whatever, you know, because it's like, okay, now I get to physically see it happening. And they're usually going to encourage me, like, come on, bro, you could do it. Right. You know what I mean? Like, come on, we're riding, let's go. And I do that with people that are in the same sphere as me too, that aren't maybe at the same level, but I know they're close enough to be like, dog, you can hit this. Like, let's go, you know? And so I think that's been a hard thing for me in life and getting to that place, because I always hung out with people that used alcohol and drank a lot and drugs, you know? And so like that kind of was a part of my life. But now that I've like removed myself from that and I'm really just, and I like, yo, to each their own. I'm not judging nobody.
Sure.
The way I need to live my life is the way I need to live mine. because it's what feels right for me, you know? So I like, once again, I just want to say this just because I'm living sober and I'm not really in those environments. I'm not passing judgment. There is no right way to this, you know? For me, that stuff caused me a lot of pain and dysfunction in my life. And I hurt a lot of friendships, like all that. It never gave me what I really wanted in life. But now that I'm out of that and I finally have matured enough the way that I need to, and I've separated myself from that, I've been starting to be around people that are excelling in different areas of life. They all pretty much own businesses, or they're really people that are, you know, advancing themselves in backcountry and snowboarding. And like now I'm being like brought into these circles, you know, with these people that are doing things that I admire to do, whether it's being a successful business owner like yourself, or, you know, riding or meeting people that have been doing backcountry for a while. Because I'm not going to go in the backcountry with people that haven't been in the backcountry before.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to listen to people about business that don't own businesses. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to do that. Like, you have to have the experience for me to want to learn from you. But if you are that person that has that experience, like, I'm a student.
Yeah.
I have no ego of when it comes to things like that. I have an ego somewhere, of course, you know, like, I'm still a hothead, you know what I mean? So, but like when it comes to learning and stuff, like I really know how to check that ego down and be okay to listen and be a student. And anyway, I think, you know, there's a lot of successful people that talk about that. Like if you're the best one in the room, if you're the best in the room, you need to find a new room.
Right.
I love that one. That's a really easy one. And Quentin Tarantino had another one. He talked about that, and he was like, look, it's like if I'm the fastest in a race every time, I'm not going to get faster. But if I'm the slowest one in a race, incrementally, I'm going to start catching up to people. And eventually I'll start passing one person. You know, it's like you have to have that mentality. But, and, you know, Elon Musk and like Henry Ford and all these people, they talk about the number one thing and reason that they're madly successful in business is because they put people that were better than them in positions where they thrived at and they knew they could never do it, because you can't do it all. So
that's absolutely right, man.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming real quick.
I've struggled with that because I've been doing my businesses all by myself. And so, you know, I want to have a team eventually, but I kind of gotten to a place where it's like, I don't need to try to do it all. I'm going to do what I do well. And that's enough to get me to a place eventually where I'm like, all right, I'm going to bring some people on, you know, and I'm going to be able to do with what I can do to build the dream up to a place where I'll start attracting the right people that want to be involved, and I'll be able to make the right selections at that time. But
yeah, man. Yeah, once that vision is clear, once the product is clean and just attractive on just many different factors, the team just kind of shows up. And I think most of our team, they've literally just walked through the door. And I'm like, man, you're exactly what we've been needing.
That's awesome.
How'd that happen? Well, you know, the product just started kind of speaking to people, you know?
Yeah.
That's my take on that, you know, for anybody that usually has advice or is asking for advice, like about hiring people, and they're like, it's such a pain. And I'm like, I think having a staff or working with a team is like the greatest part, you know? I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you seem to overall be a very positive person in maintaining, you know, what do they call it? PMA, positive mental attitude, right? I think that there's a Rasta song called PMA, positive mental attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely a Rasta song out there, PMA. But so obviously, you know, the story you tell yourself is, I think, something that I've tried to really learn is majorly impactful for me. And when the story doesn't go the way I tell it to myself, I just try to reiterate that it is that way, you know, even though it's hard at times. But like you said, like people think having employees can be so hard, but like to you, your perception isn't that way.
Nah, man.
Because the story you tell yourself is like, I'm going to attract the right people, and the right people are going to show up. And they do.
Right.
And if it doesn't work out, it sounds like you're easy to be like, oh, it's not working out.
Yeah.
I'm going to find somebody else. And you just keep moving on. You don't really let those things destroy you or like get to you too much, it sounds like.
Yeah. It is very interesting. You know, when we first started hiring people, made a lot of mistakes. And there was a lot of, it's a little bit of, you get distracted with what you need in the moment to like, I need this. Oh, this person. And really, you have to look further down the road. And I think when you focus on what the big picture is of this is what we're trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And we've had situations where we have people that produce a lot of revenue for the practice. And so you can very easily look at it. And if my intention was to make a lot of money, then that would make sense. But it was never that. And so you can tell real quick, oh man, I hired this person for the wrong reasons, and now it's not working, and now there's friction, you know? And so sometimes people come in and I won't think that they're the right fit, but everything that they're bringing is for the vision. And you're like, well, man, this person is going to execute and deliver what I'm intending to do from the start. So now I'm checking myself. I'm like, this is me talking, not, you know, I feel like the business, our business and all businesses really is like, I've been empowered. Like I've been given this gift and say, hey, we need this, you know, situation in Spokane. We need what you bring. This is what this community needs. I'm like, all right, cool. Like I take that responsibility. It was never, you are the one that Spokane needs, you know, or like it's, you are the one that can help bring this together for what we need is kind of how I look at it. So when we bring people, I'm like, this person can deliver what I've been asked to bring to this area. So I think when you hire that way, you start finding, man, this person really is going to deliver on what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is personality, right? Like, well, are they ethical? Are they this and that? Are they good team players? Well, if they're not good team players, but they can deliver to the vision, they're not going to deliver to the vision because they're going to cause friction and slow down this train that we got moving. And so, you know, hiring people has been a lot of like, okay, who are they? Like, what are they trying to do? Does it fit for the end of what we're looking for? You know, with the end in mind. And when we've done that, we've just call it luck or whatever, but we just happen to have an amazing team because that was the process. But I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is like money. Like, I want to make the most money. I want to do it. Well,
yeah, money.
It ain't going to get you what you want.
Right.
Maybe you'll have more cash in the bank, but
yeah,
long term, that's, you know.
Yeah, money for money's sake is not what I want. You know, I've found that out. It's not a driving factor for me, actually, is what I found. I want the money. Yeah. Like, yeah, I want the money.
Sure, yeah.
But it like making money just to make money itself doesn't get me off. It's how I make the money that gets me off. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like when I create something and I make money doing that, it's not really me making the money. It's the fact that, oh man, like people are buying this.
Right.
Oh yeah, like it's just like the validation that people out there want what I offer. You know what I mean? And the money or what I create, what my art is, whatever you want to call it. That's really what I love. You know what I mean? Yeah. The lie of just making money in business is like, yeah, that's great, but I don't think for my experience, I just know that's not going to lead me to happiness, making a ton of money and that being it. Like, yeah, I made millions of dollars in my life. Like,
right.
Dude, I'm just, that's not like, I got millions of dollars because of what I do. You know, it's like not just about the millions or whatever. And I don't even need million. I mean, a few million,
just a few,
whatever. But you know, I've had to go through that a lot, even with city chapters. I started city chapters it was a money grab. I had an idea, custom city coats, like people will buy these. Like I will make money, and I did. But then I realized, this isn't about money, man. There's something way deeper going on here that I need to find and think about. And, like I feel like initially, I had this grand vision of making coats for all around the world, and I did. And that was cool. It felt cool sending jackets to Japan or like Morocco or like these different places, right? And that's cool, but I never got to see those people.
Yeah.
And it's such a big vision to like grasp it all with not having a whole team in place and all these different factors that really would make that possible. It's like I skipped steps, and I think I finally realized that. And I'm happy the way that I went with that first. But as I've thought it through and where I've gotten to now is like, I just want to focus on my community, you know, and like that's where, more the focus should have always been maybe, but it wasn't, and that's okay. And I've done good regardless.
Yeah.
But now that I feel that I'm going to focus on Spokane with my product, it's going to be a whole different world that I'm living in within my business, within my purpose, and where the brand's gonna go from here. I just feel so much more anxiety relieved from me of how I'm gonna accomplish everything I wanted to with city chapters. It just got to a place like, how do you even do that, with what I'm working with? Felt like scattergunned, like I'm just trying to hopefully hit something out there, you know what I mean? But me coming to this idea, like I'm going to focus on Spokane, I feel laser focused, and
I like that, man.
So like sometimes you got to withdraw and like that dream changes, you know? And so my dream right now is just like, I just want to really get city chapters rocking in Spokane in a whole new way. Cause it's been rocking, but it's going to be rocking on a whole new way now that I'm just thinking about Spokane.
I like that.
Yeah. One thing I want to talk about is actually just the business itself, like what you do, the purpose of it, So did you always know when you wanted to start a clinic, like were you thinking physical therapy? I know you said previously you were thinking of being a surgeon, these different things. How did it come about that you chose and wanted to do like physical therapy?
Sure. Yeah, man, that's a great question. So yeah, I feel like I've always been able to identify points in my life where I can draw from certain experiences that have kind of molded how I think. And what's funny is growing up, my dad, if I had a headache or something hurt, I'd be like, oh man, I feel like I need like a Tylenol, like a whatever over the counter. My dad'd be like, no, you don't need that stuff. You just, he was always, and then like, he would like straighten out my back a little bit, like with my shoulder, like sit up tall, and so in my mind, it was always like, you got a headache, you got something, don't take the pill. You make whatever changes, drink water or whatever. And so it was funny. So when I was in undergrad doing the pre-med route, I'd be like, all right, what kind of doctor would I want to be? Okay, but then that always came back to me. I was like, well, I don't want to just give people medications. Then it was like, we talked about the surgeon route and all that. And I remember I went to my family doctor, and I remember I asked him, I was like, hey man, this is what I want to do. And what do you think? And he literally looked at me and he goes, I have no advice for you. And then he said, if you want to make money, go be a banker. Literally the words, I'll never forget those words. I was like, man, this guy's got a thrive in practice. Like, what's he talking? I just thought it was weird, but I always remembered that. So when I was looking at the different professions, I was like, well, I want to be this kind of doctor, but I don't want to like give people medications all the time. But then I kind of like the surgery deal, but I don't want to be working like crazy and having to deal with everything that comes with it. I was like, so I was really confused, And then so it kept falling back that physical therapy was it, like lifestyle, non-medication ways of managing problems. And I remember I was in undergrad and I had this headache I couldn't get rid of, and I'd never been to a chiropractor. And I was like, all right, I picked one and I went. And I remember I sat there. he looked at me, did his thing, and he did a quick treatment, got rid of it, and I remember driving in the car, and I was like, that's what I want to do. Like I knew, I was like, it clicked. I'm like, that's what I want to do. So I thought for a little bit it was chiropractic. And then as I went, I realized actually it's physical therapy, but within physical therapy, there's manual therapy. And that's what I specialize in, which you do a lot of hands-on stuff, similar, but like a little different philosophy. And so that's what it was like. And then Stacy was going to physical therapy school the whole time. And so she was like,
Oh, wow.
why don't you go? This is what she was like, what are you doing? Like, this is what you are supposed to be doing. And I was like, oh, you're right. So her and I went to graduate school together. And so anyway, that's what got me into physical therapy. And then once I was in there, I was like, yeah, pain is what I want to help people with. And I just had I kind of had this gift of being able to kind of feel things out, like these weird senses, like you can kind of tell where things were coming from. And so I just took advantage of having that ability, that just kind of natural, I guess, gift you can say. And so the school I went to was manual therapy based. Anyway, finished up my doctoral degree there, and then pursued advanced training right away. I'm like, I'm not stopping. I want to keep going. So I got my manual therapy certification, which is typically like a 2 to 3 year thing. I did it accelerated in 1 year. I was just like, man, I'm ready. And so I got out, man, and then I just knew that's what I wanted to do, and I just knew that's kind of what I was pretty good at. And then yeah, that's how I was rolling. That was your question, right? Like
how'd you got into it?
Yeah, and so then when I was working at places, there was just a lot of limitations. There's things I wanted to say. Like I've always been like, I'm gonna tell you what I'm thinking, and I'm not gonna hold back. And that was hard to do when you had relationships to keeping, like referral sources, and you couldn't say certain things. And I was like, man, I got to do this on my own, because I'm gonna say what I want. I'm gonna work with who I want, because I'm on a mission, And so I just kept developing like my skills and figuring out what it is that I wanted to do, and I started kind of honing in into chronic pain. Neck and back pain was really what my interest was in, and then I started kind of like, there was a lot of places that were clinics that just did everything. You have ACL rehab, hip, do it, balance problems, we do it. Like I was like, nah, man, like I want to bring this in and focus, because I want to develop my skills, and it's kind of hard when you're all over the place. And so I started out trying to just do mostly spine. And I just kind of had this unique gift of like being able to figure it out pretty quickly and help people move along a little faster than average. And so anyway, that's kind of where it started. And then as I was going, I started discovering some things that weren't really taught, weren't really like mainstream like information. And I was like, why am I finding these strange things? And so like, when it's all you think about, man, whether it's design, whether it's whatever, like, and it's all you think about, you start to just develop and see things that other people don't. And so that really helped propel us as a business and attract amazing talent to come join and do what we do. And then, and so, yeah. And then it's just been like that. It was, do you remember that documentary? It won like documentary of the year 7-10 years ago. It was Hero Dreams of Sushi.
No.
It won like the big awards.
Really?
And this guy is, he's credited with being the best sushi chef in the world, Michelin rated. And his sushi restaurant is in the subway in Tokyo. Like you go down this, well, it's not like Subway in New York, everything in Japan is like relatively clean usually, but you go down these stairs, whatever, and there's a little hole in the wall, and there's a dude in there, and he's the best sushi chef in the world. And I mean, President Obama went to eat there. I mean, this dude is like,
it's like a really small little place, right?
Tiny.
Yeah.
And to be one of his people, he puts you on rice. So like you can be a chef, like top notch. And he's like, cool, you're going to make the rice. And I forget something crazy, like 10 years. You got to sit there and make this rice. He walks in every day, tastes it. He's like, that's garbage. Start over. Every day, like just bam, bam, bam. And it's called Hero Dreams of Sushi. That's all he thinks about. And he's like, I'm not trying to be like chain restaurants. I'm not trying to do like, I got this hole in the wall in Tokyo. That's it. This is what I do. And I kind of was like, man, that's how I am. I'm not like, I'm the guy that wants to do one thing over and over and over again and just get really good at it. Not like somebody that just wants to like have whatever these chain restaurants are. But anyway, I realized I'm like, okay, that's how I want to do things. And so that kind of helped guide my thoughts of like how we want to structure stuff. And so that was a big motivator for me was,
I'm gonna watch that.
dude.
You must have told me about it before, because I know the story of this sushi guy who his apprentices have to go through that.
Yeah.
It must have been you that told me about it at some point.
Dude, his rice, it's like thought as like one of the best rice in the world. And there's so much honor over there in Japan with how they do things. Mm-hmm. But the distributor, they only sell to him. Like they got the best rice ever, and he's the only guy that gets it.
That's awesome.
I'm like, when you're that good, when they can make millions, and they're like, no, this guy's getting this rice. To me, it's just incredible.
Wow.
So he's just mastered every bit of his craft. And so to me, I'm like, dude, if you just do that with whatever it is you do, you're going to get to maybe half his level. You might be the best in the U.S., not best in the world, but still, that's pretty damn good, right? Mm-hmm. So that was a big motivator for me for business and how we do things is like just get really good at just simple things. Don't do a million. Don't, you go to like Jack in the Box. They got tacos, they got burgers, they got everything. You go to In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah, well, they got burgers.
How many patties do you want? That's the only thing, right? It's just,
yeah.
And what do people talk about?
Yeah.
In-N-Out Burger, right? So like,
yeah,
it's kind of that mentality, how we've kind of done things. And
I like that. I love businesses that just hyper focus on like doing one thing and one thing really good. Like with snowboarding, like LibTech, they make boards.
Right.
That's what they do.
That's it.
32 boots. They make boots. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And they make a little bit of outerwear, but like they're not making all this extra stuff. And if they do, it's not like their primary thing. It's just like, yeah, we got, a backpack here or whatever.
Yeah.
But like they're focused on boots. They don't make boards too, like I'm sure you can get a 32 board out there that was collabed with another board brand or something. But, either way, I like brands that really focus on one thing and one thing alone. And like, Mountain Hardware, like they make really great outerwear. They're not making boots too though.
Right.
But like I feel like North Face has kind of lost its way, with their quality and stuff, because it's just like, I got boots from them recently, had to return them. I was just like, there was a simple, easy overlook on quality that was affecting the way I laced my boots up and how it drove into my ankle. I'm like, you guys should not be making these mistakes.
Right.
This is not, like you guys are doing too much.
It gets corporate.
Yeah, you're starting to do Gucci or whatever, Supreme collabs. Like, you're North Face, man. Like, I'm not going to use North Face no more. I want to use brands that are like, yo, this is what we do and we do it well. I think that, and it comes down to my brand too, like trying to do too much. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like trying to figure out how I'm going to make a distro or distribution for like the world for custom jackets. And that could be down the line from now. But really what I would prefer to do is like if I do something for another city, it's in collaboration with the artist from that city. We do limited runs of whatever product release we do, but it's high quality and really good, Yeah. So I'm definitely kind of leaning back towards that way. And,
I like that, man. I mean, and to get back kind of like what we do is, because we've kind of narrowed down and a little bit what Hero did in that movie was he broke everything down. And Steve Jobs did this with the products, the Apple products, was the user experience.
Yeah.
Those nice box, like this unboxing, just this killer, just super. And I mean, yes, you got a great product, but then what's everything else around it?
What's the experience?
What's the experience? Like you walk into an Apple store, it just feels good when you're in there. Like, man, I'll buy anything. You have that feeling. And he did the same thing where he had like people would come in. He would make, the sushi based on, was this a man or a woman, because of anatomical differences. So if he made a big old piece of sushi, well, if it's a smaller frame person and they've got to eat this big old piece of sushi, they're not going to enjoy it, right? So he broke it down to sizing. Are they left-handed? Are they right-handed? So, I think these people that have found success have done that, where they reverse engineer their client, who their audience is. And so, You know, with our building, we did the same thing. When somebody walks in, what's the first thing they see? What's the feeling like? What's the vibe like? Who's up the front desk? What's their personality? Are they welcoming or are they cold? You don't want a cold person as the first person that they see. And then when they come in, when we bring them back, it just everything. And so that's kind of what we've done. So like hygiene's important, right? So like we put the sink right near the waiting room. So when we go get somebody, we're washing their hands, right? So they're seeing that it's not hidden in the back somewhere. So people aren't like, are their hands clean? Are they, you know, like every bit of your interaction, that's what we've looked at. And so when people come in and they got these problems like pain or whatever, they've already had a pretty good experience, hopefully. And now they're in your room and they're like, man, they're at a good place, meaning from what they've been through. And where have they been? They've been to all these other places that feel like a laboratory or like they're just like it's sterile white walls. And and nobody cares. Like, what's your name? You know, they're like, did you even look at my chart? You know, do you even know who I am? And they're not even looking at you because they're typing at the computer. What's your problem? What do you got? Okay, here you go. And then like, all right, see you later. And they've had a terrible experience. But for me, I'm like, man, I want them to have a great experience. That's going to cost us some money because we're not pushing volume where I have to rush and do all these things, right? It's like, but then from the actual treatment, like, all right, you come in now because we've been hyper focused. When somebody comes in, I'm like, oh man, I've seen about 1,000 of these, 10,000 of these. I don't say that, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, but now I know what to ask, know what to do, where to push, what to do, like, and based on who that person is, there's the people that are like, jump in there right now and get after it, and there's some people you got to win over, right? So sometimes I might not even put my hands on somebody right away because I'm like, I gotta talk to them, I gotta feel them out, like, you know, who they are. And then there's ways that you say things, and there's ways that when you introduce things in certain orders, and then all of a sudden when you pay that much attention, their problem just speaks to you. You know what I mean? You just know like what you got to do, and they just like give. It's kind of like they open up to you. You know, when somebody's closed off and they don't like anybody touching them, and then they don't. You know, you can't just dive in there because now it's going to be a And so as manual therapists, we have to really be aware of many different things, but you kind of put their whole medical history together. You use all your tools that you've developed, and then all of a sudden you can create change in somebody immediately. You know, but it starts from how they walk in. That it starts when they make that phone call. The words that are said in what order. Like we've got scripts. Like don't say this first, say this last. You know, and then you just set it up. And so I think that's the key to our success, and really for anybody's success. Like even with your even when we work with you and having you do some stuff for us, I'm like, anytime somebody is committed to quality and are passionate about whatever, I'm like, dude, that's what I want to do. How much is it? I don't care. You know, it doesn't matter. And so I think that's what drives business and drives success, and I think that's what's helped us out is kind of having that user experience from beginning to end. And there's follow-ups and things like that. But I think people get too concerned with the product. Like the product's got to be good. If the product's good, but the experience was terrible, they're not going to know how good the product was. Yeah.
Well, and even, it's a good point, because your perception, if you had a terrible experience, is going to translate to how you view the product. You know, like...
Right.
You could do the same amazing work as a physical therapist, but if your secretary set a bad vibe from the gate, like how much are they really going to enjoy what you can do for them?
Right.
Even if you're the same great person that, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Right? Like, so, and I know what you're saying is a better way to say, I know what you're saying. Thinking of the experience in your business and what you offer is huge. And I know I can be better at it, and I will be, you know, and I think I've done well at times, and then other times I haven't, you know, given the attention, but that's mainly because I'm like not very active in my business. But when I'm active, I'm trying to think of all the small little details that can make the experience better. And I think with me focusing, like, once again, me focusing on something very specific, this community, Spokane, like the experience of city chapters is only going to get better and better and better. But I've always thought of and been aware of the experience. Like, if you're not thinking of the experience and you're only thinking the product, or you're not thinking of either and you're just like, yeah, whatever, we'll just do this. That's not going to be a business that people are madly in love with. And that's what I want. I want people to be madly in love with what I do, you know?
Sure.
So that's where I'm trying to figure out how I can get to, like, where I'm so in love with what I do that I'm thinking of all the little details of the experience. And I've been there before, and I haven't been there until recently again, like within just me coming up to the decision, like, I'm just going to focus on Spokane. Like, that's what I need to do. That's what I needed. That's my current purpose with City Chapters.
I love it.
So, yeah, I've already learned so much, man, on how you think about business, and learned a lot more about you. Is there any more that you want to share about Cornerstone Physical Therapy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know specifically. I mean, it's, I think not just with us, really with any practice that you go to, there's a lot of people like us in different specialties. I think finding those people, because healthcare's taken a direction of being very corporate. There's a lot of money in healthcare. Yeah. There's a lot of money, and people see that, and places get bought up, and people get bought up, providers, and that experience. And I always, somebody had said this to me before, and they said, your healthcare, or like, let's say your primary care provider and who they send you to, or just that in general, is one of the most sacred things there is. And I think a lot of people have made kind of a mockery of it. Like, you go anywhere and it's like, I'm not even human in these places. Like, I'm just treated like a number. Yeah. And there's some very serious things. I get people all the time that got some serious diagnoses, and this is like a very delicate thing. And so, to me, I don't want to say like this is just about Cornerstone, but it's just in general, is with healthcare specifically, is find those people that are treating you like that, like human, genuinely concerned. Like, I almost got sick like a few months ago because I had like 3 patients that I had to refer out for, like, cancers exams, because I found some lumps, and things like that. And I was terrified for them. Like, I cared about, and I was worried just like they were. And it's not to say like, hey, that's what you want. You can't worry about everybody, because we see a lot of stuff. But if you're just like, oh man, like, you're fine, go get this test and come back. Like, there's no compassion there. And so I always encourage people to, like, just seek out, whatever it is, dentists, primary, just they're out there. You just got to find them. But people that really care about what you're going through, and to be a part of your team. And then once you got that team like us, we get a lot of people that just come back every few years. I get people that treat me like their primary care provider. Hey, I got that. What do you think? Because we've developed that. And so that's what I like to say about what we've done, is
how you've differentiated yourself. Man. Yeah.
And I will say we've thankfully, I'm very honored to have like the reputation of being the place that can solve like neck and back pain, especially stuff that's very challenging. And
I need to come see. Yeah, we
talked a little bit about it, man.
Juan did some work on me after a game, but I've been having problems with the snowboard season with my neck.
Yeah, man. There's sometimes you just gotta have a team. You look at all these athletes, man. They all have a team.
Oh, for sure.
I think I heard LeBron James spent $1 million a year on his healthcare. Minimum.
That's a minimum.
And that's like preventative. Like, I think Kobe Bryant, his physical therapist, when he was alive, his physical therapist was with him everywhere he went.
Everywhere.
You see her behind the bench.
Yeah.
And so PT, we never got recognized. We're starting to get recognized, and we're starting to get on TV now a little bit, because it's just a lot of maintenance stuff. It's a lot of day. But anyway, I always tell people, get a team, primary care, physical therapy, chiro, whatever, get a team, and just, as you get older, you need these people a little bit more. But
yeah, and especially if you're trying, well, just in general, but as I'm getting older, but I want to keep pushing myself in sports, it's like, how can I take care of myself to ensure I can do this for as long as possible? Because, like, I'm really just getting serious about snowboarding again, like in a different way than I've ever been before in my life. And I want to elongate that window. Like I'm trying to ride in heavy into my 40s, you know, like, cause I messed my 20s up so bad. Wasn't paying attention to snowboarding that much. You know, I just like lost my love for it. But, when I ride now, like I just know there's a different factor of the way that I get down. You know what I mean? And it's like my snowboarding experience is not over, and I have so much further that I know I can go in it, even if I am 33. Like, you know, people like want to like, oh, you too old, man.
Yeah.
Like I told one homie the other day, you know, he's like, what you been up to? I ain't seen him in a while. And, you know, homie's looking like he's aged. You know what I'm saying? I'm still looking pretty good. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie, man. I'm like, most people that meet me, they're like, I tell them like, oh, what I guess you're in your 20s. They're like, you know, unless they see the gray hairs I got now. You know what I'm saying? Because your boy's got some gray hairs for sure. You know, been a lot of stress in your boy's life. But, but he was just like, you know, he's my age, maybe even a year younger or so. And he was just like, kind of like baffled that I'm still snowboarding. And I'm like,
dude,
like, dog, we're not old, dude. But he's just like, man, no, that shit, oh man, I don't know. Nope, I'm not going out there. I'm like, that's too bad, bro. I'm riding, you know.
You remember Mike, the guy that used to run the team before me, man, he was in the 70s playing indoor soccer.
Yeah.
With a bunch of 20-year-olds, man.
Love it, man.
But
love it.
yeah, I guess the you know, from a formula standpoint that we were talking about earlier, probably my last one, I think it maybe applies to the theme of what you're doing here with the podcast and Spokane and everything is decisions, and whether it's business or whatever. One of the other formulas that I use is kind of in this order. I look at things and I answer the question from a benefit standpoint is, what I'm about to do or what I'm trying to do, is it going to benefit me? And then second, is it going to benefit my family? And third, is it going to benefit my community? So Spokane. And then lastly, is it going to benefit the environment? Right. So, and the ones we spoke about before with that is I run through those checklists with everything.
Yeah.
So if something's going to benefit me but not my family, it's not a good decision. Usually. Or if it's not going to benefit my community, it's not a good decision. So that's the last one that popped in my head when you asked me the formulas. I was like, which ones do I want to bring up? Or last thing I want to talk about? That was the last one I want to throw out there. And I think that kind of goes with what you're doing here. And it sounds like you've been doing that too. And it's kind of what brought you back to focusing on Spokane is maybe it wasn't benefiting your community by going more global or whatever it was at the moment. But basically it's me, family, community, and environment. You know,
For sure.
So if I'm doing something and it's all the first three but not the environment, then I try not to do that.
Yeah, man.
That's why
I like that one.
That's why I bought a Tesla.
Yeah.
In my opinion. You know what I mean? Like for environmental reasons, right? So you know, for me, it's like, okay, is it going to work for me, my family? Yeah, we're going to get around. We're going to save some money, you know, whatever. You know, and so whether it's a car, whether it's business, whatever.
Yeah, those are important things to think through for sure. And as I think that's a big part of what I've been going through is like really thinking all those kinds of things through. And I haven't been just blindly pushing on my businesses and stuff because of it. Because I'm like, I am going through all those kinds of questions. Like, what am I really even doing this for? Like, I don't want to just do to do. And I just don't want to just make clothing. Like, that's just like a catalyst. That's an ends to a mean. Like, that's, but that's not the purpose. You know what I mean? That's just like a way to create my purpose through a physical means, but that's not the purpose. So, you know, finding how all those benefits affect these different areas in life have to be in alignment, you know, and for me, of course, the first thing was myself, you know, like the decisions that I had been making were not benefiting myself, my family, my community, my environment. Like, so getting to a place of like, yo, I continuously make good decisions for myself, decisions that respect myself, decisions that show love for myself, decisions that benefit me. Now I've been doing that consistently for a while to where like, all right, I feel good in that area. I'm not perfect. I still make decisions, or maybe don't eat the best food once in a while, And I try not to be too hard on myself because you have to have grace too. But overall, like, I'm making good decisions for myself. So now it's like a lot of those other things of how you can benefit your family, benefit your community, benefit your environment are so much easier once you've taken care of yourself first.
Right. Yeah.
I've never been able to like ignore my personal problems and just focus on business. Some people are really good at that, but for me, in the balance that I'm trying to have, it's like that's impossible to just be living a dysfunctional life personally and then just trying to cover that up by being successful in business and letting people see that part of your life, but not really seeing all this other crap, So, one thing too, I wanted to bring up, like you've kind of mentioned a few times, you kind of like bring more a spiritual aspect into your business or your practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you think, like, maybe not with every client, I would imagine. Like, obviously, some clients, maybe you read them and you're like, this isn't where we're going with this person. But with some people, there's more of like a spiritual aspect or kind of vibe or practice that you bring into your physical therapy.
That's something that I've kind of tapped into in the last few years, and it's not from a standpoint of like. It's really hard to explain, honestly, because I try and explain it. It's just weird because I can't put words to it, but I'll try my best. But basically, when you are feeling, so when we're examining somebody, we can feel the area. Let's say it's the back, and I'm kind of feeling around. Because I've spent so much time in really listening, like listen, like. There's listening and then there's like listening, and like I've been able to get to different levels of being able to hear things, and it's really bizarre. Like you can feel in the body people's history. Like I can feel something and ask them, "Did you go through this?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" You could just feel it. What is it? I don't know. You can't teach it. You know what I mean? But so you've gotten to like a level where you can feel certain things, and it's really helped in solving a problem. Like for example, it happened even today. Where somebody's coming to you for this problem, and I'm like, the problem doesn't really lie in your muscles and bones. This is being triggered by something else, and that something else can be like traumas that you've been through, and so you can be working on somebody's back and be like, all right, your back feels fine. I know it hurts, but it's fine. And then you can kind of have certain types of discussions with them, and then you can have people in the moment just start bawling, crying, and their pain instantly goes away. Or like you can free up somebody's spine, you can adjust their spine and move it. And then they just start laughing hysterically or crying. And you're just like, did it hurt? No, it didn't. You just released something. Yeah, something moved.
Some energy that was tied up.
Yeah, and so you can kind of feel when you really get after, you can feel if this is purely an injury, if this is purely something emotional, or if it's a mixture of both. And so that's been what we've been able to do is tap into that for people and say, okay, I know what we need to do here. And it might not be me that can help you, but I can push you in the right direction. But basically, that's kind of the spiritual side of it, or whatever you want to call it, is you can feel it.
Yeah.
And you can feel it when somebody sits down.
A better way to talk about it instead of spiritual is energy work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, people have said that to me before, and I'm like, I don't know what it's called. I just I tapped into it, and it is what it is. Yeah. But yeah, you can feel it, man, and like you can give people realistic expectations. Like sometimes you're like, man, this person's never going to get better. It doesn't matter what. There's just too much there that they're not willing to address. And sometimes I'll give them that awkward, and this is kind of why I had to be on my own, because I'll sometimes have to say something that it's really harsh, or people really don't want to hear.
Yeah,
and I like to be accountable to myself if they're like, screw you, I'm out of here. You guys are weird. I'm out. I was like, well, all right, cool. Like, I get it. You know, I've had that happen.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'll find myself compelled to have that conversation with them. I'm like, look, you've been going through this for 20 years. You've been to everybody in town. You've had surgeries. And you're not where you want to be. If you're ready to have a conversation, let's do it. You know, and I try and do it, gentle, and I don't just throw it at them. But that's the part that you can kind of really tap into when you're doing this and you're taking your time. You know, and you're not loading up your schedules with 100 visits a day and all these things. You just But yeah, you get to know people, and so we've been able to tap into that, and it's been a game changer for helping people.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
I love that, because I'm all about the, you know, vibes, energy, metaphysical stuff as well, and you know that we do tie up and have whatever experiences, emotions that we have, they can get stuck in our body.
Yeah.
I know I need body work, energy work. Like I've been putting it off for way too long, and I've had some done, massage, whatever you want to, you know, spirit, the medicine bowls, all that kind of stuff, and it helps. But I need it like way more often. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because I do store a lot of tension, and you know, I thought like I was really in a good emotional state. The last podcast I did where I was being interviewed hasn't come out yet. Imagine it'll be out before this comes out. So the podcast I did with TS, The Solution, he interviews me. But he's like, so how are you doing? Like, you know, yourself? And I'm like, man, I'm in the best emotional state I've been in a long time. Feeling great. Man, that next week, all week last week, I was just fucking getting hammered, just feeling depressed, all sorts of stuff. I signed up for that first aid wilderness class. I had to get some items on the way that were needed for the class. And, dude, I fucking lost it. Like trying to get the things, get to this place. Like I'd had a whole like breakdown, like a mental breakdown, dude. It was bad. You know what I mean? And I was I was able to recover. I didn't carry it on past even into that whole day. I got some peace and solace. I got to the hotel. I worked out super hard. I hit the hot tub, but man, it just like, I thought I was fine. But then all of a sudden, whatever transpired through that week of the way I was feeling emotionally, and then what these things that happened on Friday, me trying to get all these things that triggered me, and like whatever was really going on deep down, I was like, Jesus, man, like what's going on? Wow, that was insane. I am insane. I need help again. You know what I mean?
Man,
like,
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
But it is what it is. I mean, you know, we can all try to hide those types of things from people, but most of us, we have those moments, dog. Like, you know what I mean? Like, life's hard. You don't know when it's coming. You could be fine. Like I said earlier, one day you good, and then next day it's like, oh shit, well, I'm not good right now. Right. You know, and it's just like, luckily I have done a lot of reading on emotional states and different things, and I realized like I don't have to let what I went through today and what happened earlier define who I am. You know, and like I have to have grace for myself, and I don't have to continue on these emotions. So I was able to recover from something like that way quicker than I had been able to in the past. But it happened. You know what I mean? It happened. And it just made me realize I got way more work to do. You know, and I always have known that. I never have ever felt I've done enough work, or that I'm at a place that's not temperamental, you know, like, you know, so. But, you know, the way you explain things and working with physical therapy is like, you know, I just need to set up an appointment.
Yeah, man. What?
Or whatever.
What you're going through, there's layers to it, man. Like you get past one layer and the next, and then you just, you know, I got in that car accident, and it brought up stuff I didn't even know was there. I was good, man. Like I didn't deal with anything. I was like, I'm lucky. Well, something happened. That car accident stirred up things, man. Emotional stuff I never dealt with before in my life, and it's there, man. It's wild.
Yeah, man.
Just now working through a lot of that stuff, but But
Well, I love that aspect that, you at your practice, you coming in for this physical therapy, but you're bringing in the full spectrum.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, you're having some physical ailments or pain, but it's really not just that's going on. So
right.
can we work on that? Do you feel comfortable talking about that? Like, I love that full aspect, and you caring about the client and giving them a real meaningful experience that shows that you care about them.
Sure.
Like you said, like you go to most places and you're just a number. Like you don't feel any compassion or like whatever you're going through.
Right.
You're just another person.
Another person.
All right, here's what we can do. That's it,
Yeah, man.
So I think we've covered enough. We've probably gone a while. I don't know where we're at.
2 hours and 15 minutes.
2 hours and 15 minutes.
Wow,
So that's a good run.
That's amazing.
That's a good run. We'll have to. I want to keep going,
I feel
but
like we can just go all night, man.
I know. That's why I said 2 hours can go. All right, so what we're gonna call it.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Bobby J. This is City Chapters Podcast. This is Juan Jaramillo.
There you go, man.
I said that more like Japanese.
Yeah.
Mijo. That was more Japanese. Jaramillo.
Yeah, man. I like that.
Was that good enough?
Yeah, I like
good?
the one you did before, honestly. I might change it up.
Yeah, we were talking about sushi.
Jaramillo.
I was just bringing in that Japanese essence. So anyway, thank you for listening. If you got all the way through, we'll put the notes, for Juan's business and how you can get a hold of him if you have any physical therapy needs and you want a little different experience than what you've had before.
Absolutely, man.
Thank you, Juan. I appreciate
thank you,
man.
This was fun.
Yeah.
All right.